Welcome to the Authentic Leaders Rising podcast, where high-achieving entrepreneurs and leaders come to receive deep, insightful conversations and practical guidance to move from hustle to flow without sacrificing their authentic self and the results. I am your host and Chief Energy Officer, Tammy Cho, a former patient care leader turned international best-selling author, speaker, and face and body analysis expert. Get ready to lead your authenticity, lead your energy, and lead your impact. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. This week, we're going to go deep. This is something that I had experienced in myself. One of my roles in my human design is to really share about a lot of my past experiences, present experiences, to have it figured out at some level and to share that with other people so that people could learn from my mistakes, learn from my stories and such. And I actually had to read this within my design to really develop the courage to share what I'm going to share today, because it's so important to me to really step into my purpose and my impact the way I'm meant to do it. And if I were to be really honest with myself, this is a big piece of how I naturally just like to be, is to share what I naturally do well, what I naturally dive deeper into within myself, and not the joy of doing it. It's like, woo, working on my trauma, right? But it's like the depth of knowing that this is the path of going deep and into the depth of who we are is a necessary ingredient of the journey. And I want to dive into something I call functional freeze, because oftentimes we hear about people experiencing trauma and they just feel frozen, like they can't take action they feel paralyzed, And there's less spoken about functional freeze, where you are actually still doing all the things highly functional, but you're actually freezing in the doing of life. You're actually freezing in the moments of ticking everything on your list, doing all the things, running your teams, stepping into your leadership, whatever that is, right? That can also be, you could also actually be in freeze. And so let me dive into that today, because I feel like this is a topic less spoken about. And it's really crucial, because I believe that a lot of people that are on the journey of wanting to live out their highest purpose and to be the best version of themselves, this is more likely what they're going through. Generally, people on the journey of wanting to be their best self, like they understand the importance of the inner game. We've already done all the trauma work, we've done all the retreats in Bali and Costa Rica and all this healing and such, right? And it's like part of us just wants to be done with it. And we're continuously called deeper into ourselves if we are connected to what is happening in consciousness. And so let me share about this and just make it a bit more tangible for everyone. We've all heard that having the awareness of something is the first step. And then we're able to then create changes, right? And so this is so true. And where I found myself in the last little bit was definitely having a lot of awareness, but not doing it, right? Knowing a lot of the things that I needed to do, but I wasn't letting myself do it. And there's a place within me that I heard that I needed to slow down, and I wasn't stepping into it. Or I should say, I was stepping into it, but not to the degree I needed to. And I had that awareness too. However, I said, oh, yeah, that's enough. I got to keep on doing the things I need to do. And so something about myself and my human design is that I have all 9 centers fully defined. I have quite a bit of information and energy coming into my being on a regular basis. Essentially, I'm less than 1% of the population, because generally reflectors in human design have all their centers open. And that's 1% of the population. And I'm on the opposite side, where I have all my centers defined. And this provides me a lot of intuition, a lot of energy to support others, but everything has a shadow and light. And I just have a tremendous amount of intuition and energy coming into me. And honestly, what I noticed that whenever I do slow down, I often, everything that I seem to be troubled with actually dissipates because I always get the information I need when I slow down enough. And so, as my way of like keeping myself stuck is often like keeping myself busy. And a big part of this for myself is really keeping myself accountable because I can hire a lot of coaches and show up very confidently, and there's a place within me that I won't listen to my own intuition, and I will actually, my trauma response is to try to get someone to tell me the answer that is needed for me. And it's obviously not working very well. And it's a lot of frustration because one of the symptoms for being out of alignment as a manifesting generator, or any generator for that matter, in human design, right, is frustration, right? And so it's like I would need to learn certain aspects from other mentors and coaches. Yet I realize that I kind of know a lot of the things I've been learning for a while. And it's really time for me to find out what works for me and to integrate it in a deeper way for myself and to allow my intuition to guide me even deeper so. And what I had found is that I was at a place I realized that it was the fear of allowing myself to step deeper in my power, to really step deeper into my intuition. And I literally had this come up like three times in the last, I don't know, 2 weeks or so. And, with one of them essentially highlighting in my life where, oh, I was like literally just taking a walk with my family and we were looking at the lights all around. And it was like a parade of lights in the evening. And there was a certain lighting structure that I actually wanted to stay and take pictures and things like this, right? And I asked my family if they wanted to, they said no. And I didn't speak up for myself. There was like a place within me that I was like, okay, well, this is what I want, and they don't want it. So, oh well. And so I caught myself like ignoring my own needs. And I know this sounds like a small thing, but this showed up in my life three times in the last 2 weeks or so. And so I knew this is how the universe speaks to us. If you've listened to some of my previous episodes, like 2 episodes ago, I talked about the interconnectedness of life. And if things are being shown to us and we're actually asking the universe, oh, please help me achieve this faster or get here faster or do this well, whatever it is. And we need to pay attention to what's happening around us. And when we see patterns like this, we really need to step into it. And I'm grateful that I have my skill set. I have these awarenesses within myself to support myself. And again, it's me stepping into a deeper accountability. And so, yeah, I was like, you know what? This is last straw, Tammy. You got to slow down even more. It's like I was creating 1 hour in my day, but I actually needed to give myself longer stretches of time to really recharge, be with myself, have a deeper presence. And I went into my own trauma. And this is something that I support clients on, to really tap into their body as a source of wisdom. And so this is something I did for myself. And I allowed my unconscious of my body. The body is the unconscious. It holds a lot of information and wisdom. And when I tapped into it, first of all, I saw a really young part of myself. Like she was literally still in the crib. And I had the sense where she just was really indecisive. Like she didn't know whether she should call her parents for help or not. It felt like she was in this indecision. And within her, like, she was very confused because there were times that she would call her parents over with her cries. And it's like she noticed that sometimes they would be very angry. And sometimes when I was young and I wanted to call my mother had left me when I was baby, but so I guess it was more my dad and my grandma, right? And I would notice it was a sense. Of course, I'm a baby at that time, but I'm fairly psychic and I could tune into things like this. And what the image has shown me was essentially this young baby didn't know whether she should actually ask for love and care and cry for that, because sometimes my parents or a caregiver would show up very angry and sometimes they would show up happy, and I couldn't I was this energy. It just felt like I was going back and forth. And this was one of the traumas that were holding me back. It was like I felt frozen. To one of the reasons I didn't want to slow down is that I was so afraid of making the wrong decision. This young part of me was like so frightened and so scared of, what if I ask for help? And what if I cry and no one comes, or they come angry? Like, am I making them angry? Like, I know I'm putting words to it, right? But that's the feeling that I got. I could feel it in my body, this confusion, indecision happening with me. And so I really supported myself there and held myself, and I spent time with her. And it's like, I just kept going deeper, and I went into another part where I was using my NLP tools, and I was processing more and more through these emotions. And it's like I would go through an NLP process, and yeah, it's like I would do the whole process. And what the awareness I that birthed from that was that, I didn't want to let go of the identity. I processed through the motions. I realized where I was operating from, my needs that I needed, and really in depth into what identity I was operating from. And this is a place within myself that I realized that, wow, I felt like if I let go of this identity, right, then my dad would abandon me. And I was like, this is a lot, but I really want to paint this picture for everyone to see how many layers this can go deep, and how unconscious it can be. And a lot of times, if we use NLP tools, but we're just going through the motions, like, we do feel better from them. But it's so important to actually tap into the intimacy with ourselves to understand that there's different layers. It's not just like one trauma for one thing, it could be very convoluted. And this is why it's so important to have someone by your side to support you and to tapping into these spaces, to learn how to tap into it from an empowered place, because this is so crucial in that it runs the show. And I love this quote from Carl Jung, is that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will run our life, and then we would just call it fate. And so it's so important within ourselves to tap into these places, learn the skill of receiving ourselves, tapping into these deeper places of knowing who we truly are versus the trauma that paints our soul to be hidden from the impact and the purpose we're meant to make. And so this is where this is where I tapped into, and my whole body was like tremoring and shaking, and I was like tearing and crying, and it's like I had a release. And it doesn't have to look a certain way. It looks different every time for me now. So it's like it just felt like a peace within myself. Something has left my body. And it's like I could then take the knowledge that I learned in my personal development and inner game to really navigate these pieces, the trauma with me in the crib. And then also the one with being afraid. My mom abandoned me already. Like, I don't want my dad to leave. I don't want to leave this identity. And so, yeah, and guess what? There was another layer, and it was all interconnected. And this is why we feel that we're doing everything in our conscious awareness and being functional and competent and doing the best we know. And yet, there's a part of us that still feels frozen. Like with me knowing kind of the right thing to do in my intuition, but being afraid to be wrong, or like afraid to take action, afraid to like develop a deeper presence so that I can play bigger within myself, right? I'm sure not the only one here, and it's about bringing consciousness to it. And so, as I created more time for myself and really went another layer deeper, and this time I went to a place where I saw my feminine power. I saw like this loving, compassionate part of me come out for my younger one. And she was there. The image was that when I was young, I would know what was right and wrong, but I was too afraid. I would hide, like when my dad used to hit us, right? And things like that. I would like hide behind my older sisters. I wouldn't have the courage to speak up for myself like my sisters did. But I was like, I better keep safe, right? And so it's like I saw that, and it's like obviously that was correct for a young child at that time to feel that way. And it was very smart for that young child to take care of herself, like for me to do that for myself and allow myself to be safe. There's nothing wrong with that. However, when I take that into my current world and when I allow that to run the show, we can't move forward because we can't actually stay safe and move into territories of growth that stretch us because it doesn't actually feel safe. We need that practice. And when we're stuck, I know that in my mind, but it's very different emotionally. And I think this is what the world needs to understand is that we can know a lot of things. The ego will fight that I know that I've done that already. But until you are able to go into these layers and to free yourself, literally free yourself and develop this deeper connection and intimacy with who we actually are and these places where we need to grow with and from and to love ourselves for it. It's so beautiful. I'm just so grateful that I gave myself the space to go into these literally three layers. So when I connected to this like feminine power within myself, like very mama bear energy of holding myself, I realized that part of me was already there. It was in me. But until I was able to deepen that connection with myself to go into these places within myself and to create the space to go into these deeper places, I wouldn't have been able to integrate these parts of my soul, these aspects of self that didn't see that they could actually support each other. And this is what I see when I work with a lot of my clients. It's often different aspects of self that don't know that they have the power. They're not making that integration. And so this is a really big part of stepping into our power because these are the places within ourselves that keep us playing small. It keeps us out of fulfillment, out of joy and freedom within ourselves. Even though, why am I unhappy? Everything seems to be working. It's not until we bring consciousness to see where we're functionally freezing, where we could surrender and let go of the mind telling us that, oh, yeah, everything is fine. And positive thinking and our way out of it, so to speak, right? Like when we're able to let go of that and truly be with ourselves deeper and not to play down these small things. It's like, oh, yeah, I know that already. I'll do that later. That's oftentimes it's like that the freeze is in the doing of needing to do more to fill the emptiness. And yet, every time we know what we're wanting or needing to do and we don't do it, we're actually eroding our sense of worthiness. We're breaking down these other parts of ourselves that truly believe that they're unworthy. And every time we ignore these pieces of ourselves, we're wearing down our confidence, our worthiness, our energy. Energy blocks start to be created or they snowball into bigger ones until every time you ask the universe for help, they show it to us. But if you're too busy on this treadmill of life to pay attention, you will miss it. This is exactly what keeps people in the cycle of overwhelm, maybe burning out. It keeps us out of joy, fulfillment. It keeps us from having that connection to our joy and passion and to living more into our purpose and impact. These are the things, and it's not about like, oh, I've done that already. It's really about like, yeah, there's more for me. There's more for me. Well, I should say that it's important to actually, as we're standing in our authentic energy leadership, we're wanting to put ourselves out there and be the essence of who we are, right? These are the pieces that are holding us back. And taking a pause here, right? Three layers deep, all interconnected, different aspects of self fighting with one another, with the ego on the outside, our mind telling us that we're okay, I don't need help, and things like that. And yet, if you're hitting some sort of invisible barrier, some sort of plateau in your life, this is likely the case. And it's not to discount everything you've done already and your mindsets and your habits. Like those are beautiful, wonderful things that we work together and bring it all together in. But this is the downfall, is that when we're working on mindset and we're not really bringing the body into it, and we're working on the motions, but we're not really bringing our soul into it. It's about bringing it all together. And I think that's what makes the work I do unique, is that it's about bringing the connection, not trying to fix ourselves, but coming from a place of love and compassion and integration and acceptance of ourselves, so we can really grow from that place, from the energy of love, and creating with the energy of love and compassion within ourselves, and to really let ourselves be who we're meant to be, and to show up in a way that we feel really connected and good within ourselves. That's true confidence. That's worthiness. That's self-love, to be able to share places of vulnerability out into the world and not judge myself. I feel really happy to have overcome that vulnerability of speaking this into the space, because I know this is what I'm meant to do and put this out there. This is the things, the nuances that we need to hear. This is where I need to be speaking to people's soul and to bypass the mind. And so I'm going to leave you with 3 steps, allowing yourself to break out of the functional freeze. Number 1 is slowing down. You heard me say it before, and you're going to hear me say it again and again. Number 1 is slowing down. What I find is that a lot of people even struggle with this piece, to actually slow down and give yourself more and more time to actually connect with yourself, whatever that looks like for you. That's your first step. Number 2 is the presence. There's the slowing down, and there's the amount of presence that you can develop, the depth of presence to actually be with yourself and to connect with your body. And so this is really crucial to start with any work like this for yourself, and to also, if you're working with someone else, to have this as an adjunct tool, so to speak, to support yourself to actually have the foundation of doing this deeper work. And number 3 is feel. Allow yourself to actually feel, because you're on the journey of learning to feel more. Because every time you move into another layer of your growth and impact, uncomfortable feelings are going to come up in the body. But if we're not being with it, we're not feeling it and learning how to partner with it, you'll always keep yourself small. You'll keep yourself to the degree that you allow yourself to feel. And so it sounds simple, but it's not necessarily easy to do. But if you are meant for more, you know that you're being called to more, you know that you're here to make a deeper impact, this is a necessary ingredient of your journey, to tap into the depths of yourself in this way, to bring more of you to the table, to build your inner capacity, to do what you're meant to do here. This is necessary ingredient for you to recognize functional freeze and to start to break out of it. I hope this episode really showed you the depth that is necessary for you to grow and to go, and also the depth that is called from you to grow from and to expand from. Much love to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. If you like this episode and you like what we share here, please hit subscribe, please follow, please join me in my Facebook group, Energetically Aligned Leaders. Everything is down in the show notes. I love to support you on your journey to really help you be the best version of yourself and to your next level potential. Thank you so much for listening to the Authentic Leaders Rising podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review so others can find the life-changing content that we're sharing here. We are starting our movement on our way to number 1, and we need your help to get there. If you'd like to connect with other high-achieving entrepreneurs and leaders who are also on their authentic, energetic leadership journey, join our free Facebook community, Energetically Aligned Leaders. Go to pathtotheheart.com/links to join the Facebook group, book your personalized face analysis experience, or to access our resources.